Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Pebs Paranormal Probes. I will be your host for the evening, Pretzel Elu Black, as we take this journey into the paranormal, into the enigma that is Skinwalker Ranch. I want to thank all y'all for joining me tonight here on this inaugural episode. We're going to take a deep dive into the ranch tonight, and I have my special co-host for tonight. We are Legion. We are one. Please welcome S.O.N to Paranormal Probes tonight.
Hey, yay. What up? Thank you for having me on, Pretzel.
Yes, sir. It's good to have you for this discussion tonight.
Agreed, man. I'm excited. This is these topics, man. The paranormal shit's a big passion of mine. So I'm happy to be here with everybody and fucking laying the knowledge down.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
That's right. That's real power.
So let's go ahead and let's get it started tonight, son. To begin the discussion on the ranch, we have to go back not to the 1900s, not to the 1800s, but to the 1700s.
Bingo.
Which I'm sure it goes back farther than that, but as far as recorded history goes, we can go back to the 1700s, 1776 to be exact. And that's when the Europeans, the expedition, traveled throughout the South out there, the Southwest, and basically named all these places, including the Skinwalker Ranch. They didn't name it, but they founded the area through there.
Yes, sir.
So it was a set of friars actually that was with the church. The church set them out and said, "We need you to go explore." And how crazy must that have been to just been an expedition traveling throughout the lands out there? You know, especially when you didn't know what was out there, nothing.
I think about this a lot, actually. Like, I don't know, to explore America or even any of the world, really, when it was an unexplored terrain, had to have been the most nerve-wracking shit you can imagine, dude. Because everything out there in the dark-ass forest is just all up to your imagination at that point. So I don't know, that shit had to have been wild.
Plus, too, for the most part, you had hostiles out there, you know, with the Native Americans, because most of the Native Americans weren't too happy with the Europeans coming into their land.
For good reason, but you're absolutely correct.
Right. So, you know, that had to have been a hell of an expedition going throughout there and trying to plot that land out.
Absolutely. And not to mention the land it was on. See, we can only imagine what these motherfuckers saw, you know what I mean?
Yep. So after the land was founded throughout there, what we know is Skinwalker today, our government had moved in, and you had two tribes of Native Americans that were in that area. You had the Utes and you had the Navajos. Well, the U.S. government come in and decided to relocate the Utes onto the reservation surrounding Skinwalker Ranch.
Yep.
So therefore, our the Utes had basically went into like a partnership or a union with the government at the time.
Yeah. They sold out to them cats and were selling like the rival Native Americans into slavery into the United States government.
Yeah, the Navajos wasn't too happy with it.
I can imagine.
So basically, what happened at the time is that the Navajos said, "Okay, you want to make partners with the enemy? We're going to go ahead and curse this land. We're going to curse it with the curse of the Skinwalker." And thus, the Skinwalker Ridge was that whole area through there was cursed.
It was born as well. Yeah, I think. But like, I mean, the amount of hatred those people felt had to hold some type of power. So, you know, like I see some discussion in the community of like, you know, curses aren't real and shit. But I mean, like, I don't know. When you're that angry, that has to hold some type of merit in the metaphysical realm. And when you direct it at something or someone.
And the Native Americans were very in tune with not only the spiritual, but with nature as well. So, you know, if anybody could lay a curse down, it was the Native Americans. And
absolutely.
So the curse of the Skinwalker entailed where they would pick a chosen person and put the curse on this person itself, and the person would then take the shape of a beast, almost like what we know today to be like a werewolf, from my
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, that
So
shit is
therefore,
wild.
so
I
therefore,
believe him
you
too.
had
I know I shouldn't, but I definitely believe that.
so you had a person that was cursed, and there was stories of they said cannibalism, and all kinds of really bad shit that was happening after the curse was put on there.
Yeah. Well, it kind of goes back to what I said of directing that much hatred and being that in tune with nature, like you said, man. I think that's a big reason, and this is kind of like a side note, but I think that's a big reason a lot of the colonial like white folks came in and started just cutting trees down because like you can't fight something you don't understand, and the Native Americans were in tune with the spirits here for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Some shit in them woods.
So let's see. In 1886, our military finalized construction on the first fort that was there in the area called Fort Duchesne.
Yeah.
So going back to the late 1800s, our government had interest in that land there, the surrounding lands.
Which doesn't surprise me, man. Like they move they've been moving secretly when it comes to shit like that. They'll have a paranormal interest in something and then claim it's something else. Like I was talking with you before the show, man. Like I feel like that's the same way they push with our national parks and shit. They just know that those pieces of land have some type of paranormal properties, and but they don't want to publicly admit anything.
Yeah, and I would say it probably had to do too with with the location itself at the time. They knew that it was a good like outpost for where they could watch things. They could sit on top of the mesas and keep an eye out and things like that. So it was prime real estate.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So after the fort was constructed, you had soldiers that come in from Buffalo that was stationed there, and they say that one particular soldier by the name of Augustus Wally was a known Mason and had connections to some head Masons at the time, and to this day, Mason symbols can be seen etched into the rock walls at Skinwalker Ranch.
See, this was news to me today. I guess I didn't do my homework well enough, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that we're speaking on this giant paranormal piece of property and the Freemasons are brought up again.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Like I know you stated, like they have their practices are directly tied to the Knights Templar, dude. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, paranormal is their game.
Yep. So let's see here. Then we're going to kick forward into the 1900s, early 1900s, around 1906. There people started hearing underground, basically rumblings and explosions, both day and night, that was occurring around the basin there. And these were reported for many years.
What do you think that was?
That's a good question. My theory is, I mean, and which we'll take a look at the map later on of the actual, the area there. But it could be where our government was at the time going into those mesas, because they could drill into the mesa and drop dynamite down in there and explode it, so that way they can get down into it.
I think the same exact thing. I was gonna say the explosions and shit definitely seem more like a person thing than a metaphysical thing. It's just motherfuckers not taking ownership for their actions. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Now, the reason why they wanted to get down into that mesa is that probably they seen the same thing that people are seeing now. They seen things coming out of the mesa. They seen strange lights coming out of the mesa. So they was like, there's got to be something in there. We need to get in there and figure it out what it is.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. I can't blame them for that either. If I seen strange lights coming out of a fucking mesa on the property I was staying on, I want to know what the fuck that was too.
Right? Exactly. So let's see here. In 1905, we have Monk Chavanon and his wife, and members of another Ute tribe was granted land in 3 sections of Skinwalker Ranch, basically where they have homesteads at now.
Okay.
So the Utes were actually, given land there, in the basin.
So they were given the land by the United States government.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that just added fuel to the fire, the hatred from the Navajos.
Yeah, and that's kind of sad. It seems like that the government like pit the people against their own people.
Imagine that.
Let's see here. 1914, we had the ranch change hands. Monk Chevenot sold the land to Henry Listler, and Henry Listler actually moved onto the property onto one of the homesteads.
Big mistake.
Right, no doubt. So let's see here. We had an occurrence in 1915 where a gentleman named Christopher Locke, who was grandson to Benton Locke, recalled an occurrence of a strange visitor to the property. The stranger appeared out of nowhere, was wearing time period clothing. However, underneath it was a dazzling blue one-piece outfit. So it was like they had like a suit on, but underneath it you could see the person glowing. There was a light emanating from the person.
That's fucking weird. I mean, like, mind you, we gotta take it with a grain of salt because it's somebody's story, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, dude. I feel like when we had less technology, there were other things that could walk around more freely, if that makes sense, because our attention was, we were plugged into the land more than this, I guess, fake consciousness. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I fully believe that is possible, that something of another realm was able to walk, especially on paranormal ass land like that.
Right? No doubt. And I've heard other stories of that before where beings will appear and they're almost ethereal, they're glowing. I've heard many stories about that, like especially out in the deserts, like Arizona and out in Utah, where these beings are seen going across the desert. They glow and they're just kind of floating across the sand.
See, that shit's so dope to me, man. Like, I know a lot of people, they'll write about this and they'll like read it as a horror story. Like, I can't believe this happened to me, but like I feel like I continuously hope shit like this happens to me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me, which has been discussed, is that, and it to me it's very scary, is the hitchhiker effect. Are you familiar with the hitchhiker effect?
No, what are you talking about?
The hitchhiker effect is, let's say that you was to go out to the ranch and had a paranormal experience one of these beings or something of the paranormal, that it would then basically latch on to you and follow you back home.
Oh yeah, so like just basically something latching onto you from a paranormal. Yeah, for sure. A lot of
that's one thing that scares me, because I've heard that story over and over again where someone said they've had a paranormal experience and they went home and the experiences continued even after they got home.
Yeah, see, I've had paranormal experiences. I feel like maybe I'm just a haunted person, but it's nothing like what we're reading about and talking about right now.
Right.
I don't know, man. The piggyback shit never scared me, but the thought of it is more scary than anything else. Like something coming into your safe place and then you have no way to get away from it. That is terrifying.
Right. And then you only have yourself to blame at that point, because you decided you was gonna, try to experience the paranormal. So then you got to deal with it.
Yeah, and that's your fault.
All right, so let's see here. Something I found fascinating is that in the after the strange noises had been reported, then in the 40s we had basically our first reports of UFO activity at the ranch. Now, okay. I'm sure as you know, around the 40s there is the same time when the Roswell incident also happened.
Yes.
So to me, that was like a real good time for things to be popping off of the UFO nature.
Absolutely. I'm when it comes to Roswell too, I'm more on the side of we were fucking with certain frequencies and brought something down. And I feel like that at that time period, like we're talking about right now, that there was just a lot of activity. Mm-hmm. So it was possible to do so.
I mean, it very well could be that, and this is something they experience at the ranch. You talked about the frequencies. There's certain frequencies that can hurt you, that can be used as a
Yeah.
weapon, and I mean, it very well could be that they figured that out and know how to use that now, and they see these things and they hit them with the frequency and bring them down.
Dude, we are we are so advanced on the frequencies that can hurt you that the CIA, you can read this shit, they have a heart attack gun.
Yep.
It shoots a frequency at your chest that makes you have a heart attack and you die.
Yep.
Fucking
No
my
doubt.
bad. I didn't mean to get spun off on that, but we're very much knowledgeable on the harmful frequencies.
Yep, and that'll be a future show that I'll probably cover is about the harp up in Alaska with its frequencies.
Right.
All right, so let's see here. Yeah, we had the UFO sightings start around the 40s, and those continued up until today, basically. They're still spotting UFOs, or as they call them today, UAPs.
Things have slowed down a lot, like in recent day, but they still see them out there.
Let's see here. We had another family in 1979 named the Arnold family, who was the owners at the time, witnessed mass UFOs at the ranch. And then in 1992, the Sherman family acquired the ranch from a gentleman named Garth Myers. You said you were familiar with the Sherman family, right?
Oh, yeah. This is my favorite part of the whole story.
All right, so get off in and tell us about the Sherman family.
The Sherman family's experiences to me are. At first, I didn't know if I wanted to believe them, and I'll get into why. But the first day they moved in, they had cattle. Obviously, it's a ranch. They were moving everything in, and they saw a wolf coming from the tree line, and it wasn't just a regular wolf, though. It was like a massive wolf. The way he put it was that the fence on the edge of the property had about 6 feet in between each post. And the wolf took up all of it. So this wolf was like 6 foot long. It was fucking giant. And they said it walked in like a snake-like pattern, and it kept getting closer. Now this is like a rugged ranch family, so normally they see a predator, they shoot it. But for some reason, all of them just felt compelled not to. And the closer the wolf got, the less scared they felt. And they all reported that by the time it was about 100 feet from them, they didn't feel scared whatsoever, and the wolf actually came up, and it walked up to, I believe, Terry was the main man of the family, and then he had sons. It walked up to his son, I believe it was, and like it put its head out, and Terry's son put his hand out and pet the wolf, and then the wolf walked up to the cattle pen, and there was a calf in the pen, and it just jumped in and started fucking this calf up. So like automatically when that happened, they snapped. They felt like they were in a trance and they snapped out of it. And they tried to shoot the wolf, but they said every time that they tried to attack it, it felt like it's not that it felt, but they didn't. There was no blood. It didn't. There was no scarring, nothing. And eventually the wolf just got up and walked off and started like kind of like just trotting towards the tree line. Well, Terry and them were like, "Yo, that thing's gonna come back and make our life hell. These cows are how we make our money. We gotta go back and get this thing." So him and his son took their rifles and they went out and they followed the tracks of the wolf to the woods, and they made it to a muddy area that you could blatantly see the wolf tracks, and they got to a certain spot and the tracks just disappeared. It's like the wolf vanished into thin air. And they also reported a chemical burning smell from the wolf being around, which is something that's indication of a skinwalker.
Yeah.
So
almost like sulfur.
Yeah. So like, honestly, that's a presence of demonic activity as well. Like it's pretty similar. I know people will try to go on more on the sci-fi side of things here, but it's all the same thing.
Right.
The family continued to have wild experiences out there, man. Like I said, how the wolf disappeared, there was a cow that disappeared, and Terry followed the tracks out to the same area, and at the same spot where the wolf disappeared, the cow did the same. But the cows would come back. They would be put back, and they would have like surgical, precise incisions cut to pieces, the head laying next to the legs. but all of it was like perfectly surgically done. It wasn't like something came and mutilated their cows. It was like something took them apart on purpose. Now,
Yep.
mind you, this is like a regular family too, so they're freaking the fuck out. They're
So
losing their
what do
fucking
you
mind.
think, son, that this wolf that they seen could it have been the skinwalker that the Native Americans spoke on?
I I think so. If they're telling the truth, I think so. I believe that I don't think that there was just one though. I think that that place at one point was a hot spot for like interdimensional walkway activity for these things. If you want to call them Wendigo or Skinwalker, just these lower vibrational things that were put there by something else.
Yep.
That's what it seems to be to me anyway.
And what's very scary is that that they tried to kill this thing. They shot at it with long rifles and nothing. Which
Nothing.
it's like it goes back to the story of like a werewolf. You can only kill a werewolf with a silver bullet.
All of that shit. Actually, me and Joe Black talked about that, man. All of those like urban legends and shit, they had to come from somewhere. People
Yep.
didn't just make that shit up. You know what I mean? So what's weird too is like he took the rifle when the wolf was running away and like put the scope on it and shot that motherfucker and nothing happened.
Yep. Yeah, they said it was invincible.
Yeah, which is that's wild to think about. What else is crazy is the trance they were put under, which sounds like I can draw a lot of parallels between that trance and a lot of extraterrestrial activity, like a lot of abduction stories.
And there's also been others who have been to the ranch who have experienced being put under like a trance, almost where they felt like they was really stoned. They really didn't know what was going on, and that's a scary thought to have a entity that can basically come into your mind telepathically and just kind of fuzz it. So you're like, oh,
You, you know what I think it is, man? I think that like we are beings that exist on a vibrational level, right? So these things have a prior knowledge of that, and they also have a way of like it's almost like a signal jammer. You know what I'm saying? Like if I send a certain frequency at you, it makes you all fucking dazed and shit. Because anytime I'm around an actual paranormal experience, like out of the ones that I have had, I felt very shaky and confused and kind of just like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So under a daze. Where I guess some people could take that as like they're under a trance, but in reality, what's going on is they're just around an extra, not extraterrestrial, but a extraordinary being.
they're around a being that's, like you said, vibrating at a different frequency. So
Yeah,
they're putting out this frequency, and you're just kind of like absorbing it, and your body doesn't know what to do.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, obviously, it's different. You know what I mean? So your body's going to need a second to react to it properly, and I think that's where a lot of like summoning ritual practice comes into play. Is people like get used to these frequencies and they get used to communing with things that aren't of their human vibration. But for a
Right.
regular rancher, this is a terrifying experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, raise
Okay.
hell, praise Dale, holy shit, what is this wolf? You know what I mean?
I mean, could you imagine you go in and you buy a piece of property, a ranch, and you're raising prize cattle there, and then all this shit starts to happen. It's just like, so the Shermans actually the let's see here. The Shermans was actually out of the ranch by 1996. Now 1996 is when the story starts to get really interesting. This is when millionaire Robert Bigelow acquired Skinwalker Ranch. He bought it.
Yeah. What's wild about before we move into Bigelow, I want to say one more thing about the Shermans. Um, they had multitudes of experiences, and if we don't cover everything, you guys should definitely go read about it because a lot of it is hella interesting. This Skinwalker Ranch is interesting in general, but there was something that happened to them that they said was the worst thing, and it was these blue lights. You know what I'm talking about? Where they said that as soon as the blue lights were around, you felt instant, like the most anxiety you've ever felt.
Mm-hmm.
And the blue lights were connected to the orange circles that they would see too. Terry, the rancher guy, before Bigelow came in and bought the property, Terry would see these orange orbs in the sky in his yard. It wasn't like up in the sky, it was like above his yard.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was nighttime when you would see them. And through the orb in the middle of it, he would see like a daytime blue sky. But at that moment, when he would see that, is when these four-legged shadow beasts would crawl through into the yard. Now, this is going to wrap up into the Bigelow thing. I just wanted to mention that so we have something to go off of when it gets brought up. But this was saw by government officials and shit as well. But you can go ahead and continue, brother. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's very relevant. It's like those lights are still seen to this day, throughout the ranch, where they'll track it to a certain spot, they'll go up to it, and then gone.
Gone. Just like the wolf, though.
Yep.
Just like the wolf and the cow.
It's like it's to me, it's either one or two things. They're either they turn their frequency up and they just vibrate out, or they can vibrate and open up a portal and go through that portal and gone.
I know definitely when they're taking the weird beast form, maybe their actual like 3D humanoid form, it seems to be that they fall through holes in space time. But when they're in their light body, I can't speak because I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because no one sees them leave through a thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's a weird vicious cycle we just can't physically understand.
Well, let's think about it like this. We was talking about earlier the demonic possession.
Yeah.
What if you have these beings that once they come through, they have to have a body to possess?
Yeah.
Be it human or animal. And once they take shape, once they take into that animal, they can then they're using whatever abilities or whatever they have that's enhanced with that animal.
That's very possible.
So let's see here. Yeah, so let's get off into Bigelow. Like I said, Bigelow he's a multimillionaire. He could even be a billionaire, but he's got enough money where he could do anything he wants. And so Bigelow acquires the ranch with the sole purpose of studying it, because Bigelow is into the paranormal. He wants to find out about the afterlife, ghosts, UFOs, whole 9 yards.
He really wanted to prove that it was real. That was one of Bigelow's main goals, was to obtain some type of solid evidence to show and be like, this is something we need to pay attention to.
Yep. So they create the National Institute for Discovery Science, aka NIDS. So this was basically created just for the ranch, so that they can have their team there and do their studies at the ranch.
They're also going to use it as like a base of operations. So any like studies they did outside of the ranch, even, that would be like their number one main headquarters.
So basically what happens then is that once Bigelow gets in there, then our U.S. government takes notice as well. And our U.S. government basically partners with NIDS and with Bigelow so that they can come in and do research with his team.
Yep.
So therefore you had the team, and there was actually a couple different teams that were built at the time through the government. One of them was I think his name was Louis Alfandro or something like that. He was ex-CIA, and they brought him in to study this topic of the ranch and see what was going on.
One thing I definitely admired when Bigelow built his team too was that he made sure he built a team of skeptics, because he didn't want anybody convincing themselves that they saw something. So he built a team of people that were absolutely on the fence about paranormal shit. And I think that it was definitely effective, but go on.
Yep. So you had them all doing, they had the technology at the time, and they was doing all kinds of experiments. And you actually had, I'm going to say that 90% of the experiments and what they learned there was classified. We'll never find out what they was actually doing there, because all of it's been classified, and it's not under the Freedom Registration Act or whatever that is. We can't touch that information.
No, because technically, I mean, regardless of the government involvement, so the Freedom of Information Act is fucked. I mean, I'd like to see it, but at the same time, it's like, whatever. Speculation's fun too.
But we did have one gentleman come out who was there during that time, And we were speaking on that earlier. You want to go ahead and tell us about that? What that one gentleman's experience was while he was there?
Wait, which one? What are you talking about?
You remember the gentleman who said he saw the craft come out the mesa, and then he witnessed he witnessed it coming out of the craft.
Oh shit! No, you go ahead and touch on that, brother.
Oh, okay.
You'd be better off of doing it.
So one of the researchers there, they was always watching the mesa there because the mesa is the hot spot where a lot of the paranormal activity goes on. So one of the gentlemen that was there during the times of Bigelow doing research, he said they was watching the mesa. They saw a craft, a circular silver craft, come out of the mesa, come down into the valley and land, and then a being, an ethereal being of light, come out of the craft, come out, looked around, got back into the craft, and went back into the mesa. He said he witnessed this with his own eyes.
Bro, so real quick, entertain me. So like, there's definitely a possibility, and the more I hear about shit like this, is like the more like I really start to think this. But like, I think that the Greys even maybe are not extraterrestrial beings, more Earth beings that live inside of the Earth. Because the more I put it together when we talk about shit like this, and like you put together some of the tribes that live by the ocean and shit, and they say that they've seen things like that come out of the ocean all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's I don't know. To me, I feel like the puzzle pieces fit together that these things might just come out of the earth, and places like Skinwalker Ranch were hotbeds for shit like this because that's a place they were coming out of.
Well, and that's a good point you make, son. If you look at it, there is one hot spot overseas. It's called Mount Hermon.
Okay.
They say I think that Mount Hermon is in Israel, and they say that Mount Hermon is the spot where when the angels descended to earth, the angels are biblical. They said that the angels come down and they descended upon Mount Hermon, and then from there they spread out and they started giving mankind knowledge. Well, if you look at where Mount Hermon is on the map on the globe, they have something called ley lines. Okay.
Yeah.
Mount Hermon is perfectly lined up with other paranormal spots across the globe. If you make a line, they're all connected.
That's
from Roswell to Mount Hermon to Skin across the earth.
That's wild. I didn't know about that. That's fucking crazy.
They call them ley lines. And they say that Mount Hermon was the first spot, that they descended upon Mount Hermon, and then they went out from there.
Crazy. I knew about the fault lines and shit like that, and I knew about a lot of them being hotbeds for like extraterrestrial activity and shit like that. I lived on one for a while. I heard a lot of people's crazy ass fucking stories. I didn't know about the ley lines though.
So I think you made a very good point there, where I think what we're looking at here is not something of an extraterrestrial nature. We want to think of it as extraterrestrial because it seems so far advanced, but what we don't take into account is that who's to say 2,000 years ago we wasn't more advanced than what we are now, and that there was a reset that happened. Something happened. The Great Calamity reset.
In my eyes, that is 100% the case. Now, mind you, the right information can be presented to me for anything. It can change my mind on almost anything. But I think it's apparent that we have digressed. And we have digressed because certain people want us to digress. I feel like at one point, all of this knowledge was open knowledge like it should have been. And at some point, a couple groups of families decided to get together and were like, yo, this isn't for everybody. We could use this to our benefit. You know what I mean? And now we're in the position we are. And we think we're more advanced than we've ever been, when that's couldn't be farther from the truth.
Right. I mean, it's as easy as to look at some of the ancient structures, such as the pyramids, Mayan temples, and things like that. People say to this day that they have no clue how they built these. Well, yeah. It could be possible that because they was getting help and that they was more advanced than what we are today. Just because Absolutely. They all didn't have cell phones in their hands doesn't mean they wasn't smart.
One thing, yeah, the cell phones are fucking traps anyway. I feel like one thing that the extraterrestrials, we'll just refer them to that for right now, but knowing I think that they're an extension of us, or Earthlings. Um, one common theme with these things, though, when I read about them, is that their technology is used emotionally. The technology responds to them emotionally, not up here, but from within. You know what I mean? So like a lot of these crafts or whatever, even if they're found, they can't be flown because we have no idea how to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? These are emotionally and intelligently advanced beings that I feel like have had room to grow in the direction that we were supposed to. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you let a human go and you generation after generation, it's proven that our DNA holds memory. So, generations down the line, we would have grown into superheroes, a complete emotionally intelligent race of creators. You know what I'm saying? But I think that information just kind of got swept under the rug, and now we're here.
I mean, now, don't get me wrong. I'm not ruling out the possibility. I know that there's extraterrestrial life out there. The universe
Oh
is
yeah,
far too large and vast for not to be life out there. I just think that the thought of interstellar travel, is way too far out there.
agreed.
Now, that's not to say that we don't have extraterrestrials that are coming through wormholes. I mean, that's very well a possibility too.
There's
But
a
I myself, I in my heart believe that these are interdimensional beings that are existing on like a pancake plane where we're here, you have beings here, you have beings down here, and that there's certain points where they can cross over, and that's what
yeah,
we're seeing.
absolutely. I fully agree, and I think that's why UFOs look the way they do too. Not the craft UFOs, but like I've personally seen UFOs. They're like, there's no way that that's physical matter. You know what I mean? And I think that that's because these are things of an interdimensional, like nature. You know what I'm saying? Like they look like a spectacle to us here, but in reality, they're just traveling.
Right. Yeah, that's wild for sure. So let's see here, son. In 2015, Bigelow activities concluded. That means in
Yeah,
2015 his research was done. So basically, what Bigelow done was is that he said that he couldn't get any more information out of the ranch. He said that they'd done all of their research and that he couldn't go no further with it. That the ranch only gave information when it wanted to. So he was concluding his studies. The funny thing about Bigelow is that after he concluded his studies at the ranch, he
yeah.
then went on to do studies about and consciousness in particular. He actually set up a fund to where if someone could prove consciousness, he would give them like $6 million for the proof of consciousness within the mind.
That's dope. Well, I mean, he was on his journey, man, and he had a fuck ton of money, so of course, that makes sense. You know what I mean? What they said about the ranch too was that him and Terry both said that it felt like the entire time they were there that whatever was there, like they were under the jest of beings that were two steps ahead of them the whole time.
Yes.
So like these things are obviously intelligent and they don't want to be documented or seen. And honestly, this goes back into why I feel like people see less of these things now is because everyone can document everything.
Yep. So yeah, I
It
mean
doesn't
that.
surprise me though that Bigelow went into the journey of trying to prove consciousness after something like that. Because when you have experiences like that, they send you in the right direction of the questions you should be asking.
Right. It's like I think that he figured out a lot while he was at the ranch, and it just opened up more questions for him. It's like, okay, well, we know that there's these interdimensional beings. Maybe these interdimensional beings are us. Maybe they're our souls. Maybe they're our future selves. Maybe they're our past selves. But I think what we're looking at is basically, like I said, ourselves.
Yeah,
Because if there is indeed a multiverse and there is multiple dimensions, that means that there's another one of you right now that's on another plane, and he's just doing something different, but it's you. And that's
we're all
that's crazy. That's
seeds.
crazy to think about.
Absolutely, dude. We are all seeds of our higher selves, including ourselves that look like that, man. I believe everything you just said, no question. And I think that that's why they even travel, is because we're all trying to conjoin back together. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of in our nature to go forward and pull back together. And we we've lost our way in a lot of ways, but in the same token, it's like we're regaining our footing now with these ideas. You understand? Like, I think there are a lot of things that are happening. Like I think that everything is consciousness and being, meaning like our sun is conscious, meaning that in a different dimension, that thing is thinking and moving and doing what it needs to, but in our three-dimensional realm, it looks like a sun.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that all of these things have a purpose and a place. And I definitely believe that whatever we consider these aliens, whatever the fuck you want to call them, they're us.
Yep.
And they're especially with the Greys, in my opinion, there feels to be a connection. You know what I'm saying? I hope it's not programming, but in the same time, like when I think about the Greys and like when I try to imagine their intent, it seems to me that it feels like we are the same.
Well, I mean, and this is just a theory. If you think about it, in the future, in the far future, let's say that nuclear war did break out. That means that people would have to go underground to survive. And think about how long you'd have to stay underground. What if they had to stay underground for so long that that's the appearance that they took after so long, was that of the Greys? You know, life will find a way to evolve. And if we had to stay underground long enough, we may be looking at our evolved selves.
Stephen Hawking believed that. Stephen Hawking believed that the Greys were us trying to come back in time to be like, hey, don't fucking do this. Now, do I fully subscribe to Stephen Hawking's ideas? No, but I will acknowledge that he was a very smart man. Personally, I think that time is more like a flat circle, and there's points in the circle that influence other points in the circle. You know what I'm saying? So, time is more of an event that is happening. There's one giant right now, and it's not split up into the linear time that we believe in. With that being said, those things could be us in a different timeline, like we spoke on, and they are influencing us right now. And they're also obviously they have emotionally and intelligently evolved, and they're using that knowledge to speak with us. And maybe that is so we can all get on the same. I mean, like maybe a big point in this is to line up all of your past, present, and future selves and get them to work together and use the synergy to create like gods. Who knows?
That could very well be true, because there's actually another gentleman who had spoke on that. And his name was General Admiral Byrd of the U.S. Navy. You ever heard of him?
No.
General Admiral Byrd of the Navy led the first expedition down to Antarctica to explore Antarctica and to map it.
Is he the one that wrote about the ice wall?
He did, yep.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of this guy.
He said, and this was in his diary when he died. His son had got a hold of his diary, and Admiral Byrd said that he actually went into a hole there in Antarctica, flew his plane down into a hole, down into the earth, where it was a whole nother place. He said he saw things such as woolly mammoths. He saw all kinds of things, crazy things, up to and including beings, different humanoid beings that approached him and tried to warn him and say, the path that y'all are on is going to destroy the earth. And he said that he was meant to give this to the surface.
Woo! Man, that shit's wild.
Yeah, crazy as fuck.
That shit's wild.
So let's see here. In 2016 is when Adamantium Real Estate buys Skinwalker Ranch from Robert Bigelow. Now, at the time, nobody knew who Adamantium Real Estate was.
Yeah.
And I think that's crazy that he was able to use that name, Adamantium. I figured Marvel would have like copyrighted and trademarked that, because Wolverine's got the adamantium.
But these guys ended up doing the TV show.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah. I can't believe they got away with that either. That's weird.
Yep. I believe the gentleman's name is Brandon Fugel. He is a real estate mogul in the southeast out there, I believe in Utah. And I mean he's loaded like what Bigelow is. We're talking, cash forever.
Yeah,
So he
I
buys the ranch.
personally don't like what this cat, and this is like a weird dead giveaway for me. I don't know. Like I'm big on phonies in the paranormal scene per se, and I feel like this motherfucker just saw an opportunity to make money. Like as soon as he bought the ranch from Bigelow, he patented the trademark for the name Skinwalker Ranch. But go ahead.
So I did my research into Fugel. I've watched quite a few interviews with him, and what happened was he said at first he wasn't going to make it known that he bought the ranch. He didn't want nobody to know.
Yeah,
He was going to keep it a secret and conduct his research there. He said that his research and the reason why he bought the ranch is done out of his wanting to know about these paranormal things. He says that he was raised in, I believe, like a Christian setting coming up, and he just developed a love for the paranormal, coming up. And he was really wanting to, almost like Bigelow, wanting to be able to prove, these things that go on. And he just so happened to have the money to where he could possibly do it.
I mean, dude, if I had a bunch of fucking money, I'd buy up a bunch of paranormal shit too, just because I like it.
Right? Exactly. I mean, it goes to show you, it's like money can buy happiness.
Yeah, oh, for sure. The idea of money is where it gets us.
So, yeah, Brandon Fugel comes in and buys the ranch, and he starts setting up there. He basically locks the ranch down and made it so nobody can come through the ranch. He shut down all roads leading to the ranch, started putting up surveillance everywhere, and he started watching. And from the earliest days of him putting up surveillance there, they started catching things not only in the sky but on the mesa itself.
Yeah.
They have footage of the mesa lighting up. We're not talking about lights just coming out of the mesa. The mesa actually emanating light from it. So that means that there's something in that mesa that is so fucking bright, it is shining through the rock.
That could be a multitude of things. That could also be capturing the exact moment something passes between dimensions. We don't know.
It could be. It could be when it's opening up. You see it open up. There's that extreme, intense PowerPoint, and then it closes.
Yep.
It very well could be. So let's see here. In 2019 is when History Channel approached Fugel and Prometheus Entertainment, who is known for Ancient Aliens and other shows that have been on. And then they began filming The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch in 2019 with would you call it a reality show?
Yeah, I didn't want it to be, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, it sort of is. I mean, I enjoyed some of the show, but I can definitely see in the show where they do things for TV. Instead of it being just a strict research and them doing this, you could tell where they're adding things in for TV.
I also feel like that level of corn, you know what I mean? Like that level of that shit for TV. I feel like they do shit like that on purpose. Not just them. I'm talking about like TV in general. Um, to make this shit that they're researching look fucking stupid. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, in my opinion, classic CIA like disinformation shit. So like some of it obviously is bullshit, but then you have stuff like the Mesa lighting up, and you're like, wow, that's actually good evidence. But it makes it look like shit because it's on the show. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, now take it, they have done a lot of good research there and picked up a lot of good stuff. One of the gentlemen there, one of the lead researchers, built a machine and basically nicknamed it Satan. And this machine, they dug a hole in the ground and they buried this machine down in the ground so that it can take readings and do all kinds of stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty lit. I'm not trying to hate on it either. Like, I don't want it to feel like I'm just spewing blind hate at it. It's just I don't know. I guess I have a bad taste for reality TV. Now, I do think that some of the clips I've watched from the show definitely seem legitimate. So I'm not going to call dude a bullshitter by any means. It's just the stuff sprinkled in for TV kind of defers me from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think they do that, to make sure that the viewers stay on and that it makes it more exciting. They
Oh
got to
yeah,
make it.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I'll give you one example. And this was in the last season here, season 3. They have experiments where they was sending rockets up into the sky,
Yeah,
and they have this certain area at the ranch where they call it the triangle, where they say they're getting the most activity not only on the ground but up in the air too, where they're getting all these
yeah,
crazy fucking readings. So they decide they got these lasers shooting up from the ground that's coming up to a pyramid up to the top of this spot, and they decide they're going to shoot rockets up into this because they think that something's up there. They just can't see it. So they
yeah,
was going to shoot a rocket up there, let the rocket deploy like I think it was like baby powder and some other stuff, so that if it falls down, it'll blanket it. You may not be able to see it, but the baby powder will cover it. So they shoot this rocket up, it launches, and you're watching it, and the camera cuts back to the crew, and they're all like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. And they said the rocket made it so far up, and then it deflected, almost like it hit something, and then it went off.
that's
Now,
weird as fuck.
take it, the camera cut at that point. You didn't actually see the rocket hit something and deflect. The camera cut to the crew, and it made for exciting TV because the crew was like, "What the fuck's going on?" Blah blah this and that. But to me, I would have liked to seen the rocket hit the thing and deflect.
Yeah, 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 of course.
It was like, why take that important part out of it? It's like TV, man, reality TV.
That's the History Channel shit, man.
But they have had a lot, like I said, a lot of good other experiments, up to and including they brought a rabbi onto the grounds, a real famous rabbi. And this rabbi went onto the mesa and performed like these rabbi prayers and things like that to, I guess, try to spark whatever was there. And so the rabbi does this thing, and they do experience certain things, like they see things in the homestead going on when he's doing this. The lights, the orange and blue lights. But the crazy thing is that the rabbi told one of the scientists there. The rabbi said that these things come to me and they told me that they're going to see you tonight. And the dude looked at him and he said, "What do you mean see me?" He said, "You'll find out." And so and this is one of the lead scientists that actually like work for the government. He's like a head rocket scientist, got all kinds of degrees and stuff. He said that night he went to bed in his trailer, and he said that a Native American, he said a blue light took over the trailer. A Native American in full gear, full headgear, everything, come walking into his room, and he said the Native American stood over him, took his finger and poked it into his cheek as hard as he could, and sit there and looked at him. Dude said he was frozen, couldn't move, with fear. He was like, "Fuck, this guy's about to kill me."
Yeah, what the fuck?
He's blue light cuts off. He gets up and he looks, and he says he had a spot on his chin where you could tell someone was taking their finger and just digging it into your face.
So, real quick theory about that. So you said it was the blue light, and these blue lights were mentioned by the previous family. Now, here, just entertain me real quick. What if these blue lights are the true form of these things while they're traveling, and they can hold memory of like living 3D beings they've seen? Obviously, they've interacted with the Native Americans. Obviously, they've interacted with wolves. So maybe it's like, or it could be that they are infiltrating our consciousness. And like if we have a one consciousness, you know what I mean? Like they're infiltrating that and then portraying themselves as whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? Because like that, I just see a similarity there with the light, and then like I don't know, it just kind of clicked in my head that maybe that blue light is actually their true form.
It very well could be.
The energy burning could smell like sulfur, all of that. Who knows?
So yeah, I mean, as of right now, like I said, they're up to season 3. They've shot 3 seasons at Skinwalker Ranch. They've tried drilling into the mesa, and they've been told time and time again, don't dig on this property, because whenever they dig, bad things happen. It basically it excites whatever's there and it pisses it off. They've been told not to dig. So what do? They dig.
They
And
start digging.
so they know that something's going on with the mesa. So they brought a drilling team in to drill into the mesa. They went so far and they hit metal in the mesa. Said they couldn't go no farther. So they pulled out the drill, and they was going to send a little RC car in there with a camera on it to see what was in there. Well, they send the RC car down there, and lo and behold, a fucking boulder comes down and blocks the way so that the RC car can't get through there no more. Therefore, they're unable to see what's in the mesa.
Of course.
So, I mean that could eventually be the big payoff. If they can get into the mesa and figure out what's in the mesa, we could be looking at a craft in the mesa. We could be looking at like a Stargate within the mesa. We could be looking at maybe a whole mini city within the mesa. We don't know yet, but there's definitely something going on with the mesa there at Skinwalker.
It reminds me of the story Lovecraft wrote, the Rats in the Walls, where that family has the house, but the house is actually like it's the entrance to a city underground and shit. That'd be really wild if that's what the mesa ended up being, man. I mean, honestly, the way I feel about it is even if they get in there, if something doesn't want us to see what's in there, then we're just not going to see it. You know what I mean? Like, these things have been like 2 steps ahead of the humans the entire time. So I doubt that we'll actually get a big payoff. But I feel like the payoff here is the questions we're getting by seeing things like this. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the next step is if we ever get the chance, we should go out there. That shit would be lit. I don't know how that works with the TV show and shit, because there's probably a bunch of people trying to do that, but I would love to go out there.
Yeah, I think they pretty much got it locked down right now. I mean, I follow the guys on Facebook, you know, who actually run the ranch out there. There's a couple of them that stay out there all the time. I mean, it would be possible, but you know, I fear the hitchhiking effect, because that's been reported at the ranch, to where when you go out to the ranch and you experience something paranormal, that it can follow you home. Many have reported where the paranormal activity will follow them to their actual home, and it continues.
You gotta make sure your intentions are very strong, man. It's nothing but being like a powerful mage, I guess. You know what I mean? But that's a corny term. I'm not trying to sound like a fucking cornball, but it's walking in and knowing what you're getting yourself into and knowing how to keep shit off of you. When I was younger, I had a lot of paranormal experiences. A lot of things kind of latched on to me and shit. And I learned at a younger age to like shake that shit off, I guess. You know what I mean? Now, mind you, the shit that goes on at the ranch, I don't know. I haven't been out there. I think that's part of the curiosity of me wanting to do so.
Yeah, I mean, the ranch is, I mean, there's so many different types of activity going on at the ranch. I mean, it's like wow. If there was ever a hotbed of paranormal activity, the ranch is it.
For sure, especially when it's publicized, man. You got to think how many places like this exist and no one talks about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, surrounding area there's a lot of different mesas going on. You know, I think myself, it's the area out there. You know, it's not just the Skinwalker Ranch is a hotbed, probably because of what went on with the Native Americans and them cursing the land. That just added on to whatever was going on there. But I think that whole area around there, you can see things going on. And that goes back to the theory of the land itself and the planet, where you know you see these occurrences happen around volcanoes. You see them happening in the oceans. You see them happening in the skies. So it definitely correlates with the Earth itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to the cameo by the homie Jason.
So let's see here tonight, son. We've had quite a few people in the chat. Unfortunately, I've been going at it so hard here. I've been able to keep up with the chat, but I do see y'all in the chat out here. Thank all y'all for tuning in tonight.
Much love. Much love. I know who's all up there now, but I appreciate it.
So let's give our in thoughts on the Skinwalker Ranch, son. What are your in thoughts on the Skinwalker Ranch tonight after this discussion?
So, as we spoke before we started, I believe what's going on at the Skinwalker Ranch is very much the same thing that's happening in our national parks with the missing 411. For those who don't know what that is, I'm not going to go into it super big. That's a whole other episode. But um, people just randomly out of the blink of an eye go missing forever in our national parks, and I think that the Skinwalker Ranch is another area that is very much a paranormal hotbed like that. I think that there is uh, things that open gateways there and have the ability to do so, and that the energy is just right. And I I definitely am a believer, I guess. When I try to wrap up everything, it's like it adds up to a lot of the same things that I've been reading about going on in all of our national parks and in different places in the world too, man. You know what I mean? There's like the suicide forest in Japan and like a couple other places I can think of that just give me the same vibes. So I think the big takeaway and the end thought on Skinwalker Ranch is to always be aware of your surroundings and to feel things out. And because there's like I said, a lot of places like this that no one talks about, and you might end up in one.
Yep, definitely. I can agree to that. My final thoughts on it is that I just want to go back to where I think that it's the land itself, that where the paranormal activity is coming from. And I think what leads credence to that is that our government has had such an interest in that area for so long. They know that paranormal activity has been going on there, and they've been studying it to try to figure it out. And there's actual other areas that are towards that area on different mesas out there where the government has come in and bought out the land and put telescopes on top of these areas so that they can get good views of the universe from right there. So there's definitely a correlation there between our government and them wanting to study these places of power, these places of paranormal activity.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I feel like those places of power too. They automatically like they get threatened by shit like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they automatically want to understand it because if it's anything that could pose a threat to them, they need to know about it. You know what I mean?
And also they always want to advance their knowledge. They always want to stay on that on the tip, the cutting edge of knowing everything. And I think eventually that's going to be our downfall. I think that was our downfall many years ago with our ancient civilizations. They wanted to get so far ahead that it all ended, that it eventually imploded.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And this time too, we have a organization of people that are trying to keep one side of the population down when it comes to knowledge. They want them to teach them what they want to teach them and nothing else. So that inevitably will break. You cannot keep animals from their nature for that long without them figuring it out. It is what it is. We will face another downfall.
You're right. All right. Well, I want to go ahead and thank you for joining me tonight, son. We had a very good discussion here on the Skinwalker Ranch. You're very knowledgeable in the subject. And again, I want to thank you for coming on with me here tonight.
Thank you for having me, P. Thank you for everybody that watched. I fucking love shit like this. So if you want me back, I will be back.
Oh yeah, we got a lot more topics that's out there we're gonna have to go over. So we'll do it again soon. Thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. This will be a monthly show. So you next month. We're gonna be doing another special next month, and I'm gonna have a big one in October. So make sure you definitely stay subscribed to the channel here and keep your eyes out for Pebs Paranormal Probes. Until next time, keep your eyes open.